And hopefully my cat won't start crawling on the computer and mess all this up. But anyway, okay. So what is mindfulness and what does it mean to practice mindful meditation? Mindfulness is an experience and is sometimes challenging to describe in words. One of the most trusted definitions that I have heard of is by John Kabat-Zinn. He's a well-known meditation teacher and an author. And he says that mindfulness is awareness cultivated by paying attention in a sustained particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. And that's a mouthful. So another way to say that is mindfulness is a present moment awareness. So mindfulness is a present moment awareness. You're aware of what is taking place here and now. You're watching things moment by moment and watching things change. So most of us, most of the time, are not in the present moment. Instead, we're in a trance or on autopilot, going through the motions of whatever we're doing, such as eating, driving, or doing mundane daily tasks. We're lost in our thoughts, and the mind is busy with either rehashing the past or rehearsing the future. In being in this state, we miss the present moment, the only moment we ever have to be alive, to make decisions, to grow, to heal, to be there with the people we care about. We're bypassing our life as it unfolds moment by moment. When it comes to being mindful, just being present in this moment isn't enough. Meditation teacher Joseph Goldstein says that in order to be mindful, we have to be conscious of our awareness. It's a huge step to be aware of what we are doing as we do it, but it is not enough. You have to be conscious of your awareness. You have to be aware that you're aware. For example, dogs totally live in the moment, but they're not mindful since they're not aware of it. So another way to help explain this is to describe what happens when you lack awareness in the present moment. For example, you may not be aware that you carry tension and stress in the body. You may not even realize it. You might hear a comment more critically than it was meant because you're not aware that you're in a bad mood. If you are aware that you're in a bad mood, you understand that you're predisposed to a more negative bias. Or you might not be aware that you tend to hold on to negative experiences long after they're over, even if the present moment is positive. So concentration and mindfulness go hand in hand when it comes to meditation. When getting started in meditation, one of the first things you'll notice is how incredibly active the mind really is. Some people refer to this state as monkey mind. It's when you don't seem to be able to gather your focus, and it's very, very common. We usually begin meditation by gathering our attention. It's pretty hard to be mindful when your attention is really scattered. And so most often we invite people to anchor their experiences through breath or body or sound, some simple way to come into the present. When your mind wanders, it's the mindfulness that brings you back to what you're supposed to be doing. It's the mindfulness that brings our mind back to the object of our attention. This repeated awareness, realizing our mind has wandered and bringing our attention back to our focus. This is what establishes the mental habit as a mindfulness practice. So when the mindfulness is present, you'll notice when you become stuck in your thought patterns. Training in mindfulness is a really effective way of getting to know all about your thought patterns. You might remember that I mentioned in one of the flyers of the benefits of mindful meditation in increasing self-awareness. Getting to know your own thought patterns is one way of increasing self-awareness. I want you to always keep in mind this is called a meditation practice, and the emphasis is on the word practice. There is absolutely no right or wrong experiences. You do have to keep in mind that this is not a quick fix. Meditation might be deeply relaxing, but you will more than likely have occasional experiences of boredom or restlessness or even anxiousness. The practice is a process and it unfolds in time. So, today I want to talk about using the breath as an anchor. And our meditation session will focus on mindfulness of breathing, using the breath as an anchor to steady the heart and the mind. As I mentioned earlier, and what you're about to find out if you've never meditated before, is that when we first start meditating, the mind is all over the place. It's a shocking discovery that our mind is basically out of control. And then we ask it to do something and it won't do it. It thinks and it plans and it remembers and it judges and it schemes and it does to do lists and it goes everywhere. Before you start wondering if there's something wrong with you, I can tell you that most people experience this. So, to tame our distracted, scattered attention, we turn it towards an object. In this case, we're talking about the breath as that object. The breath can be used to steady and to focus us even when the mind is distracted. And at first, the mind will not stay focused on our breath for very long. It bounces away, distracted by a thought or an idea. Distraction is a symptom of our time and our culture. So, in this session, I really want to talk about how to steady our attention. One thing that you can do to start steadying your attention before you even get started meditating is to drop into your body to ground yourself. So, I want you to try something with me just for a minute. Close your eyes or lower your gaze if that feels better. Now, try and sense in your own body. Feel the heaviness of it. Feel the weight of your feet on the ground, the weight of your legs. Be aware of where your body is touching your chair and the heaviness of those areas. Feel the weight of your arms. You might even dangle your arms off the side of your chair so that you can really feel the heaviness of them and the weight of your arms pulling down on your shoulders. Maybe take a deep cleansing breath just to feel that you are quite present. Now see if you can tell where you sense your breath most easily. It might be in your nose, in the throat, in the chest, or in the belly. Maybe even explore all those areas and see where you sense the breath the strongest. You can open your eyes whenever you're ready. So, continuing, let's explore where you most sense the breath. For most people, this is the first question: where to sense the breath. How do you begin to become aware of your breathing? For some, it'll be a coolness in the nostrils or the spot on the upper lip where the cool air touches as it comes in, and you can feel warmer air as you exhale. Or it could be a sensation in the back of the throat. That's actually where I've always focused my attention. It's almost the area where you feel like you're going to cough. For others, you may sense your breath more easily if you put your hand on your belly and leave it there. Leave it there and feel the rise and fall of your breath in the palm of your hand. I actually do this more and more myself. There's something kind of comforting about it. Another technique to gather your attention around the breath and this is a very common practice, is to simply name the breath. Breathe in, breathe out, inhale, exhale. And when you're naming the breath, make it a whisper in your mind. Let the experience of actually feeling the breath moving in the body be the majority of the focus. You can begin to become more sensitive to the natural rhythm of the breath itself. A similar way of beginning to establish a sense of connection with the breath is to count the breath. But in counting the breath, again, the important thing is to let the numbers be a whisper in your mind. So you can count up to 10 and then back down again. Chances are good that you'll get to about breath 2 and then drift away, lost in thought. Once you become aware that you've drifted into thinking, come back to breath and start over again. As we have discussed, you have just experienced mindfulness, and you'll have a chance to practice it over and over again. Thoughts take you away from your anchor, the mind starts thinking, and that is the nature of the mind. You haven't done anything wrong when you find that you have drifted off. You've just created the situation where you can practice mindfulness and return to your anchor. The most critical piece of the instruction is the returning back to the breath. So you'll be aware of 2 breaths or 4 breaths or 8 breaths or whatever it is, and then the attention will wander. People use that to judge themselves. I'm no good at this. I'm a bad breather. And the favorite one is, I can't meditate. I've heard that so many times. And it's not true. This is all just part of the process. Part of the practice, and wandering mind is part of meditation. Mindfulness of breathing is the moment that you notice the attention is gone. That moment is the magic moment, because that's the moment you're waking up out of a trance, as Tara Brach, a renowned and popular teacher, would say. You're waking up out of not being here in the total moment, and then you come back to the breath, to the present. And even if you come back 100 or 1,000 times, that power of returning is the very thing that is both training the attention and steadying the mind and bringing the mind and body together. So mindfulness of breath is an art, and you want to practice with a kind of trust for yourself. And as you do, you'll notice that different kinds of resistance that come, distraction, pain, boredom, sleepiness, restlessness. The beautiful thing about the breath is it is ever present and it's always changing. It's morphing and moving, and it's long and it's short, and it has all its different rhythms to it. Mindfulness of breathing is simply attending to the breath with our kind attention, moment by moment. We don't have to breathe deeply or in any particular way. We're not manipulating our breath or any part of our experience. But we might often find that just by paying attention, the breath naturally slows down and becomes deeper. Activating the parasympathetic nervous system, or the relaxation response, is a result of that. But there's no need to try to make that happen purposefully. Just notice the breath exactly as it is without judgment. And then, in the mirror of all that attention, you see around it everything else that's going on. You really start to see the moods you have, the states of your own body, your feelings, your thoughts, the stories. All those become more apparent because the breath helps us to become more present. When you do connect with the breath, it becomes a gateway to deep calm, to clear seeing, and to all kinds of other extraordinary capacities of concentration and presence. Now, I want to give a little attention to an alternative anchor, and here are several of them. One alternative is a body scan. Some of you may have done this before. It's a slow scan through the body. It's exactly what it sounds like. You can start at the feet and go up the body, and you stop and focus on each part of the body, one area at a time. We'll be doing a body scan in one of our classes, not today, but one of our future classes. Another is just to feel the body in its presence and then become mindful of things as they come and go. So instead of the breath, you just feel the sensations of the body. It's a little bit more of a subtle practice. Another that's common is to listen to sound. You can't control it so well. You automatically stay curious and explore the anchor. You can pause and just listen to sound for a time and notice the subtle sounds and loud sounds. Listening to sounds brings us into the present, develops a steadiness, and doesn't require the breath. I've just started doing this and it's great. It's especially if you've spent years doing mindfulness of the breath, to switch over to start listening to sound as your focal point, as your anchor, is really terrific. And we're going to try that as well. It's the same philosophy for all of them. When you find yourself drifting, you go back to your anchor and do it again and again as needed. So, the awareness that we use to bring the mind back to our anchor is mindfulness. The muscle of attention is strengthened just a little every time we come back to our anchor. As attention stays on its object longer and longer, the mind's restlessness begins to calm down, resulting in a state of tranquility. Again, the most critical piece in the instruction is the recognizing that you've been lost in thought and returning back to the breath. That's the moment of mindfulness. So we do have time built in for questions and answers at the end. So if you don't mind holding your questions, if you have any, and we're going to meditate in just a minute. I want you to experience for yourself what I've been describing in our talk. And we're going to start focusing on the breath and using the breath as the anchor when we sit today. And we're going to be using mindfulness to become aware of when our mind has wandered and bringing our focus back to the breath. We'll also end today's session using sound as an anchor, just so you can experience a different kind of an anchor. And I'll be guiding you through this meditation step by step, so you can relax and just follow my instruction. So if you want to find a comfortable upright position, you might want to take a sip of water if you need to. And you can sit with your back touching the back of your chair, or you can sit forward so your back is not touching anything at all. You want to keep your back straight but not stiff. If you're sitting in a chair, you want to place both feet flat on the floor. And as far as your hands, if you want to rest your hands on your legs or rest one hand in the palm of the other, whatever position is comfortable and doesn't put any strain on your shoulders. So you can close your eyes now or just lower the gaze downward if that feels more comfortable for you. So I want you to begin noticing where it's easiest to feel the breath. Take 2 or 3 breaths that are just a bit deeper than you would normally take, just to help sense that place in the body where you feel the breath the most. It might be air you feel in your nostrils on the in-breath or on the upper lip with the out-breath, or maybe the back of the throat. It might be the rise and fall of your chest or belly. Wherever you find the breath easiest to feel or most pleasant, rest your kind attention there. If the breath is subtle or if it's hard to feel, you can place a hand on your belly and feel the rise and fall of your belly in the palm of your hand. As you're finding that place in your body where it's the easiest to feel your breath, let the mind calm and the body relax. Just as clouds can appear in the sky and linger for a while before drifting off over the horizon, we can have thoughts that drift into our awareness and capture our attention for a time. Each time this happens, gently return the awareness to the breath. Rest in the spaciousness of the awareness and just let it be. Let go of the control of the breath and don't manipulate the breath in any way. Try not to lead it. Just try to follow the breath. Just observe it. Continue with this relaxed and calming attention on the breath. Each time the attention wanders and you notice, gently bring it back. It's like training a puppy, no judgment. It's a gentle corralling back to your object of attention. If it's helpful, you can notice the beginning, the middle, and the ending of the in breath or rise, in the beginning and middle and end of the out breath or the fall. Notice the space between breaths, relaxing with the breathing. Each breath arising and passing with mindful awareness. Perhaps you may notice how the breath expands the chest on the inhale and falls away on the exhale. Sensing how the chest lifts and falls away with each breath. Track the entire cycle of the breath, the inhale and the exhale. Using the awareness of the breath as your anchor to the present moment. Noticing this breath right here. Noticing each breath as it develops, allowing any tension in the body that isn't needed to be released with each exhale, yet allowing any tension that remains to be just as it is. Where's your attention now? Where does it go during the quiet moments? Each time you notice that your mind has wandered off, you're doing the practice just right. That is a moment of mindfulness, gently bringing your awareness back to the breath. Without controlling the breath, try whispering to yourself. Inhale, exhale as you breathe. Just follow the natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing where your attention is and if it's drifted, gently returning to the sensations of breathing. As you feel each breath, let the mind calm and the body relax. Now, staying with the whispering to yourself, try counting to 10. When you get carried away by your thoughts, just gently return to your breath and start over. So if you made it to number 2 or 3 before your thoughts took you away, that's about right. And now, as best you can, change the anchor of your practice from your breath to notice the sounds all around you, directing the attention to the soundscape around you, to the sensation of the sound. Sound is the perfect object of mindfulness, as we hear only the sounds of the moment. We don't hear the sounds of the past or the future. What is being heard in this moment? There's no need to identify the sound or try to figure it out in any way. Just notice the quality of the sound. Observe the sound of each moment. Notice where the mind is right now. Has it bounced into the future, planning what is yet to come? Or are you rehashing the past? Just noticing where your attention goes in the silent moments and gently with kindness, bringing your attention back to the soundscape that's all around you. There's no, there's no need to reach out and search for sounds. Just fall into receptivity. Each time the mind wanders, kindly bring the attention back to the sounds of this moment. The sounds around you are the sounds of this very moment, and you can just notice them. Perhaps you might notice an automatic sense of liking some sounds more than others. Bird sounds might register as more pleasant than the rumble of a garbage truck. Just notice this. Everything is actually just the sound of the moment. It's only a wave of sound. First, there is only the sound itself, and then the liking and disliking of it. You, as the one that is hearing, adds the interpretation of judgment, if any. Let it be just as it is. You may notice some sounds are quite close to you, other sounds are off in the distance. And if you pay very close attention, you may notice there are even sounds inside your own body. What are the sounds of this moment? Now, when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. So, if you want to stretch or take a sip of water, please do. So, just to give you a sense of time, that was probably about 12 minutes. I don't know if it felt longer or shorter for you, but so we have some time for questions and answers today. And I can almost guarantee you any question you have is probably a question somebody else has. So, and you can just speak out, just unmute yourself, speak out.
I thought it was great. I definitely drifted and came back to my breath, but I had to not try to fall asleep. Like, it was very relaxing to a point where I just wanted to take a nap.
Yes, that is actually very common and usually the first question that people ask. It's pretty universal. There's certain things you can do. One thing you can do is if your eyes are completely closed, you can open them just a little bit. Another thing you can do is sit up a little straighter if you found yourself starting to sort of sink down. It's one of those things you just have to work through. It usually changes in time, but I've been to meditation retreats where you see the teacher nodding. So it's not uncommon, and because it can be relaxing, you just have to find certain ways to adjust and yeah, it's a challenge sometimes, but it's a great question. Everybody's usually wondering about it.
Well, thank you. And my other question was, when I was focusing on my breathing, I was trying to figure out breathing through my nose and then exhaling through my mouth, or does it matter?
You know, I think different teachers will tell you different things. I actually keep my mouth closed and breathe through my nose. There are some teachers that'll talk about breathing through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. I think it's really whatever you want to do, whatever's most comfortable for you. I don't think that there's necessarily a right way and a wrong way. Um, I have heard somebody saying if you're having difficulty with concentration doing it one way, try it the other way so that you're doing something different. Your body's not used to it. And it might actually make you more aware than you normally would be. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hello, Lori. Thank
Hi.
you for the class. Um, my question is, uh, uh, before we start the meditation, I had kind of background stress going on in my mind. And when we were meditating, I felt more anxious, I think, than I was before. I was trying to concentrate on my breathing, but I was feeling my heart is pumping, and like I could feel it in my throat somehow. And I wasn't sure if I'm supposed to just to observe it, or I'm supposed to try to like control it, or to change my focus just on breathing. I wasn't sure what to do with that extra feeling there.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think a lot of people um have come in or will, if they haven't, come into a meditation where they're bringing a lot of stress and um, have to sit with that and work with it. So I think you actually said, should I observe it? And
Yeah.
that's the real key to it, is kind of observing. You can start with observing where you feel it in your body. You said that your heart was beating a little faster. I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering if you felt it in your stomach or
Felt
in
more like to my throat.
your throat.
Yeah.
That may be where you hold tension more.
Mm.
And you're not really supposed to control it. That's not really the approach that you want to take. You really want to observe if you can. You want to keep trying to focus if you can, um, on the breath and see, with a few more minutes of practice, you might be able to focus a little bit longer and a little bit longer. But usually, if you're observing the tension and you're observing the heartbeat, the longer you observe it, the more it'll kind of calm down. It'll start changing. They say that um, the more you observe any sensation in the body, you start seeing how it comes and goes. It's not a consistent, constant feeling. It sort of comes and goes in waves. I don't know if you have noticed that or not.
Yeah, probably it was uh sometimes it was harder, sometimes less. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next time you come into a meditation and you're feeling that way, try to really focus on it and sort of get in there and see if it's a constant or if it kind of moves, if it changes. I think you're not trying to necessarily explain it. You're just observing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
there's nothing wrong. I mean, you haven't done anything. You just happened to come in at a time in your life that was busy and maybe a little bit, you may have had a lot of things going on. So just because you come into meditation isn't automatically that you're going to feel relaxed afterwards. Um,
Right.
I even said sometimes you can feel a little agitated. You just can't completely settle. So next time will be totally different. I can promise you that. Every time you sit will be a completely different experience. I
Okay. Yeah.
hope that helps.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did anyone else have a question?
Oh, hi. I don't have a question. I just want to apologize. My internet is going in and out, so I'm trying to not disrupt the group and keep my video off and use as little as possible. So my apologies for that if I
No
disrupted
problem.
going. Okay.
No problem at all.
And thank you. I really enjoyed the meditation and your talk as well.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Lori.
Hey, Bruce.
Um, so the breathing thing as an anchor, is it an either or kind of a thing? Like I don't have to use breathing, I could use the sound, the listening kind of a thing.
Yeah. So when we started, we were talking about using the breath as an anchor, and you really are just paying attention to the breath. You're really observing it.
That didn't work for me.
That didn't work for you. That's why we have options.
Yeah, the breathing, becoming aware of my breathing altered my breathing significantly, and I found myself short of breath at times, or needing to more fully exhale than I was taking the time to do. And I applied all of these things onto my breathing that I found uncomfortable and distracting and tension inducing. So that wasn't fun.
Actually,
Okay.
I used to have the exact same thing happen. I almost felt like I was hyperventilating.
That's the word.
Yeah. So, um, but
But I
ironic,
quite like the sound part.
the sound is pretty amazing. I have always meditated with focus on the breathing, even though there are times that I feel like I'm almost hyperventilating a little bit. Some people love focusing on the breathing, some people don't. And that's why we're going to go through all these different kinds of types of meditation.
I just felt
Um,
my chest getting tense.
yeah, you start controlling it. You're like
Yeah.
leading the breath instead of following it. And I don't think it's that uncommon. Um, I will say that if you can stick with it for a little while, it does kind of calm down. You do, especially if you're focusing on following the breath. However, you don't want to sit there just annoyed and uncomfortable and hyperventilating. So, anytime you want to practice on your own, maybe the choice you make is to focus on sound. And it's so easy, especially once you find out that you can focus on the sounds in your own body, because sometimes it's really quiet. And you can actually hear the sounds of, a white noise in your ear. But once I discovered focusing on sound, it was such a lighter way of meditating. Um, but the breath is always there. So it's a really reliable, basic way of meditating. And some people do that for their entire meditation career, that's all they focus on. But don't feel like there's nothing wrong. You can do other types of practice. So if the sound works for you, go with the sound by all means. Did anybody else have that experience where they felt a little short of breath by focusing on it? I'm just curious. Yeah, okay. I had noticed some people had talked about it before and I had it, so I was kind of curious if anybody else had felt that way. But yeah, stick with the sound. And you may actually like the more physical meditation, like walking meditation. Some people that have trouble with just sitting still and not, not feeling antsy, really like the walking meditation, moving and
Do you discern a difference between meditating and thinking?
yes.
I lay down every day to think. It's usually about 40 minutes. And I am aware that my mind is very active, and sometimes I have specific tasks that I want to think about, and sometimes I just think. What if, when you're meditating, the digressions, the divagations of your thoughts are interesting to you?
You can absolutely meditate in a way that's more insightful so that the thoughts that take you away are something that you observe and explore. They're not something that you go, okay, that's a thought. I'm going to go back to my anchor. So, what I was talking about today and what we were practicing is a form of meditation that's more concentration based. And building up that concentration awareness is one of the first steps in developing, um, I don't want to say a discipline, but that meditation muscle. So that,
Habit of mind.
I'm sorry,
Habit of mind.
habit of mind. It's a good way to put it. So that when you are, as opposed to just thinking, if you are meditating on something, for lack of a better way of saying it, you're actually aware of what you're doing, you're observing and exploring, as opposed to just letting your mind kind of roll on. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I suppose the idea of meditation and concentrating heretofore have seemed a bit antagonistic to me. Meditating seems like it's the opposite of concentrating somehow, or
Hmm.
I don't know. Like if I'm concentrating, that does, the connotation of that word is not in any way related to the connotation of the word meditating. That makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there are concentration practices and there are insight practices, there are heart practices where it's more of a compassion meditation or a loving kindness meditation. So there are different ways to practice. There are different types of meditation. We're going to explore all of those. In the last class, we're going to do a loving kindness meditation or a kindness meditation. Some people think loving kindness is too sappy. Um, so
Okay.
we'll call it a kindness meditation. Um,
I
but
want to be loving and kind,
hopefully most people do.
but I do think it is sappy.
It is sappy. Um, so there are different types. And this is, we start with a concentration meditation to sort of get everything, because most people are, running around, their mind is running around 1,000 miles an hour. So we kind of start with gathering our attention so that you can work up to that observing your mind. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thanks. It's a good questions. have just a couple more minutes if anybody has anything. And it can be just basic questions. I know some people struggle with trying to get comfortable, pain in your body. It's a little bit like Camilla was talking about with the racing heart. Sometimes if you just focus in, if you've got back issues or hip issues, anything going on like that physically, you can kind of focus in on those for a little bit and it, this sounds a little crazy, but explore the pain, see if it's constant or if there's a pulse to it. And sometimes you'll find within time that it sort of dissipates or it gets to be less. It's kind of like focusing on an itch. And you find in time that it stops itching instead of getting stronger. So if any of you are having any of those kinds of issues, that might be something you explore. It's much easier when you're sitting in a chair than when you're sitting cross-legged on the floor. That's when you really have to explore the pain. At least for me, that's when I have to explore the pain. So let me talk a little bit about personal practice. The ideal is that you would practice every day. I don't want to say the best way to practice, but if you can get yourself in the habit of sitting down at one place, maybe at the same time, and all you do is meditate for 2 minutes, but you do it every day, and you kind of get in that habit, that would be better than sitting down once or twice between now and the next time we meet and sit down for 15 minutes. So think about that this week. Like I said, I'll send you the recording and you can use that. You can sit quietly with a timer. But if you can just force yourself to sit for whatever length of time you can, and it's fine, you can start off 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Maybe you start off Monday with 2 minutes and add a minute every day. But that kind of habit will get you a lot further than just doing it for 15 minutes once or twice. So maybe think of it that way. And there's something about sitting in the same place, going to the same place at the same time. You don't need any special atmosphere, just finding that same chair. And there's something about animals. If you have cats and dogs, they sort of glom onto you as you're meditating. I don't know what the story is, but they want to get in your lap. So just be prepared. You'll have attack of the cats. But give that a try. It's a little bit easier to face that in the upcoming week as opposed to sit for 20 minutes every day between now and the time we meet next time. All right. We are at the end of the session. Any other questions before we tie it up? Okay. We will try something new next Sunday. And thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Lori. It's
Thank
great.
you. Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.